If you're hyped for Stranger Things Season 5, but you can't remember a damn thing from the early seasons, here's your quick recap of Seasons 1 and 2. And Part 2 drops tomorrow with Seasons 3 and 4, so make sure you're following along. The show opens up in 1983 Hawkins, Indiana, with 4 kids playing Dungeons & Dragons. And then one of those kids, Will, gets abducted by a Demogorgon and taken to the Upside Down. Meanwhile, this young girl, 11, who has telekinetic powers, escapes Hawkins' lab where this guy, Dr. Brenner, was experimenting on her. And then the boys who are searching for Will in the woods find 11 and they take her in. And Joyce, who's freaking out over her missing son, goes to Hopper for help, and she starts trying to communicate with her son through Christmas lights. And Nancy goes to a house party at Steve's house with her friend Barb, and Jonathan is creepily taking pictures of Nancy from the woods. Barb goes missing, but it turns out that Jonathan accidentally got a picture of a Demogorgon behind Barb. And then the whole gang builds a sensory deprivation tank at school to help 11 use her powers, and she finds out that Barb is dead and Will is still alive. So Joyce and Hopper go into the Upside Down, and they find Will hooked up to all kinds of Upside Down shit. And then Dr. Brenner and his crew show up at the school. 11 takes them all out, but then a Demogorgon shows up, and 11 kills the Demogorgon, but she disappears with it. And now Will is back home and safe, but he's throwing up slugs, and it turns out he's still connected to the Upside Down. And then Season 2 kicks off with Will having this vision of this big shadowy figure called the Mind Flayer. We also get introduced to some newcomers to town this season, Max and Billy. And meanwhile, we find out that 11 is still alive, she escaped the Upside Down, and she's hiding out in Hopper's cabin in the woods, but eventually she leaves to go and find her mom, and along the way, she also finds her long-lost sister, Kali, who's number 8. Back in Hawkins, Hopper is investigating poison crops, and he traces the source back to Hawkins' lab, and eventually he discovers an extensive system of underground tunnels beneath Hawkins. And Dustin finds this mysterious creature, which he decides to call Dart, and it turns out it's just a baby Demodog. And we also meet Murray this season, who's an investigative journalist that Nancy and Jonathan are trying to work with to expose Hawkins' lab. And then things heat up when the Demodogs escape the underground tunnels, and they attack Hawkins' lab, killing Joyce's new boyfriend, Bob. The group then performs a sort of exorcism on Will by heating up his body so they can force the Mind Flayer out of him. And then 11 returns to Hawkins and she uses her powers to close the gate to the Upside Down. And then the season ends with a super wholesome snowball, but it turns out the Mind Flayer is watching over it from the Upside Down.